There's nothing more important for your organization than the look and functionality of where your team spends most of their time. Here at Netting Pros and Stadionic, we create iconic facilities that exceed industry standards and become the headline of your organization. We've worked with dozens of the top leagues, collegiate programs, and professional baseball organizations.
We are here at Clemson University to build our second baseball field on a football field.
And having that partner with Netting Pros to be able to look at that and say, how can we make this happen that can be great for fans, great for the experience, and they nailed it.
We have customized solutions for whatever your needs may be to help every aspect of your project, bringing facilities to life.
We got to make sure that we're having the top premier products. We want the best for our guys.
Without great partnerships and collaboration with Netting Pros, we wouldn't be able to pull this off.
We're confident that your venue will stand above the rest and your vision for the future will be made into a reality.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Conversations presented by Netting Pros and D1Baseball.com. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. This is the last episode of this fall, and I am so fired up for this. The theme this fall has been really like great teams in the modern history of college baseball. And I would argue this is the team we're going to talk about tonight, the 2015 Illinois baseball team. You can make an argument this is the greatest Big Ten team in history, given everything that has transpired and as college baseball has matured and grown up. And this group was 50-10-1. Think about a team in Champaign, Illinois. When we start our season on February 15th, basically, this team goes 50-10-1. I mean, you got to shovel snow to get to 50 wins for this team. 21-1. In the Big Ten, and only twice in this format of college baseball, this new NCAA tournament format, we've only had it's 26 years with the 64 teams and 16 hosts. We've only had two Big Ten teams ever be a top 8 national seed. 2014 Indiana and 2015 in Illinois, and just incredible in a million different ways. I think about that decade for Big Ten baseball was really important because no one had been back to Omaha since Michigan in '84. Indiana, first Purdue hosts in 2012. That was a big data point, a big inflection point. Then Indiana goes to Omaha in 2013, the Kyle Schwarber team, and then Indiana's a top 8 seed, gets clipped. You guys are a top 8 seed, and then Michigan famously plays in the finals in 2019. But man, this team, just incredible what was accomplished. And so my two guests tonight, so I've got Drew Dickinson and Spencer Allen. So let me introduce these guys. So Drew Dickinson is Illinois through and through. He's now the pitching coach at Missouri, but Drew was the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year in 2001, spent 8 years as the pitching coach at Illinois. And that's really, as Drew left his playing career, his pro career, became, famous in our college baseball community as the pitching coach. Just had some incredible pitching staffs at Illinois. Then he goes to Virginia, and they only go to Omaha 3 of his 6 years at Virginia. That's pretty good, I'm told, going to Omaha 50% of the time. And now in the SEC at Missouri. So really excited that Drew will obviously be on the pitching side and the recruiting side of this. And then Spencer Allen's joining us. Spencer Allen is currently the director of player development for the Milwaukee Brewers, who led MLB in wins with 97 this year. Big part of Spencer's program is preparing players to play for a psychotic manager in the big leagues. I'm kidding, of course, but that's my man, Pat Murphy, who is like family for my wife and I. But, Spencer's had this incredible baseball career. In addition to this huge job he has with the Brewers, he was the head coach at Northwestern for 6 years. Really like an incredibly well-respected assistant coach at places like Purdue and Creighton and Washington State. He's been an agent. He's been a scout. He's been a head coach. I mean, Spencer has done everything in this game. So, gentlemen, I'm so pleased to have you guys here to help me tell this story about this incredible club. So, Drew, I'm going to start with you. Tell me how your Illinois life, your Illinois career began.
Well, it began as a player back in the fall of 1998. Funny, I committed there basically in the beginning of August, and school started about August 25th. So like 3 weeks before, how things have changed, right?
Incredible.
As a recruited walk-on and as an outfielder, first baseman, somebody could pitch, and then started pitching as my freshman year after being on I actually was redshirted the first 15 games and then came off and then pitched like 10 appearances, but went to Northwoods League and started pitching there and getting starts, and then just kind of fell into the pitching, the position player stuff, kind of went to the side, and then played there for 4 years. And that was Moneyball draft class with the A's, played with them for 6, and then 2 years of independent ball. And then still hadn't got my degree yet. So I went back to school 7 years later to get that last semester in, and got asked to be a volunteer assistant. And I was like, sure, I'll help out. I mean, when I played, the volunteer assistant didn't travel. They'd stay back and do the practices and stuff. And it took that first weekend of games, and I was hooked. And so I got home. The next day I retired I was going to play independent ball again, retired. Didn't want to leave the guys early. And then ended up coaching there in 2011 as well, a volunteer, and then full-time from 2012 to 2019.
Love that. So Drew, first of all, Drew, I failed to mention 30 wins as an Illinois pitcher, which is still the school record, which is amazing. As good of a pitching coach as Drew was, it is ironic that no one quite got to his 30 wins. But I'll have to go back through the records and see if there was any guys miraculously pulled in the fourth inning. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Jackal. Yeah. So Drew, let me ask you this. Your choice or Coach Hartlib's choice to drop the bat as a player, and then who were you as a pitcher? Like, what was our stuff like?
Oh, I was a soft lefty. I mean, soft lefty. Like Baseball America called me the next Jamie Moyer soft, right? So,
okay.
But low 80s. But I had my fastball moved a lot. Really, I had a really good changeup. I will say that, a plus changeup, a below average breaking ball. But I felt like my go-to was just my overall competitiveness, that you just weren't going to beat me. And I think I showed that in how I competed and how when you're a soft tosser, you better execute, and that's fine. I'll just execute at just an insane high rate because that's what was needed to win. And again, I feel like when you're in sports, whatever it may be, I don't care if it's golf, bowling, basketball, whatever, we're playing. I want to win, and I want to do everything I can to win. I took the same attitude when I pitched. So
love that. Spence, tell us how you came to Illinois.
Yeah. So it was late July, actually. Eric Snyder. I've known Eric for a long time. Drew and I both known Eric, and obviously Eric has done an unbelievable job. I want to make sure to be very clear with this and everyone is that Drew, Eric Snyder, and Dan Hartlib recruited this team. So as we get into that, I want to make sure that's really clear. But actually, we were down in Lake Point, and Snide said, "Hey, there might be something coming on down the line. Would you have interest?" And obviously, I knew for me, I wanted to continue to be a head coach. I knew this program, the history of the program. Playing against them back when I coached at Purdue, just how good they were, how they loved to steal bags. I just knew their style of play, and then they always competed on the mound. And so when Coach Hartlib, the interview process went down, and he asked me to be a part of it, I was pretty excited. So
love it. Hey, so let's I'm going to have you do this first, Spence, and then Drew, I'm going to come to you because you'll have more of a snapshot view of this, and I think Drew, you'll have more of a broader picture view of this. So the next obvious question is like this all-time great season in the history of the Big Ten, it's in the conversation clearly. Like the question becomes, when did you see it coming? So Drew, so let's start. So Spence, you get this job and you probably have some idea that they're going to be good. Like when you get settled into the fall, like, are you immediately like, oh my gosh, like I need to stay out of the way, or like what was your first impressions?
Well, one of the cool things, Mike, that we had is this, and these, as you know about these college teams, we actually had a chance to go down to the Dominican Republic with this group. Cool. Yeah, and so on two fronts. Of one, just an opportunity to like get to know the guys on a different level, and I always say that trip changed my life. Fun fact with that too, there was three teams that were down there. One of them was Washington State. I coached at the other one. Vandy was on. They were, swear to God, and then So I'm not trying to get ahead of the story for people that don't know, but yeah, we would see them later in the season. So anyway, to get back to your point, Mike, we had a little bit of an idea of like, ooh, this team is pretty good, Drew and Coach Hartlib had said, hey, look, we think we have a pretty good team here. And so we saw it coming. One of the things I was looking through the schedule. We went to Coastal Carolina, actually lost 2 or 3. It was kind of a tournament type of deal. And, the next weekend we went to Oklahoma State. They were 10th in the nation at the time, and we took 2 or 3. And I think at that point right there, I was like, okay, like this team just, kind of lost maybe a little bit of swagger that all of a sudden they go to Okie State, not scared, take 2 or 3. For me, that was kind of the point of like, there might be something special here, because I've seen teams, kind of spiral down when you lose a series that you're probably supposed to win. And then the next week, they really take off against Okie State. So that was, for me, that was when I was like, okay, this team is interesting.
It's so funny, some of these intersection points too, because it's like, okay, Coastal, they were pretty good in this time, right? Like, I know Coastal's always good, but like they're about 15 months away from winning the national title. And, Oklahoma State that you're mentioning, like they were a top 8 national seed the year before. They lost a home super regional to Irvine, and then they're about to be in Omaha in 2016. And then of course the 3 teams in the Dominican Republic. That's bonkers. How about, Drew, for you? So, you're getting to know these players on the front end through the recruiting process. What was the lead up to this incredible 2015 season?
Well, the freshman year for those, like I said, that junior class that was so good. The freshman year, they went to the Vanderbilt regional, right? We played Georgia Tech opening game, beat them, then lost to Vanderbilt, and then got walked off basically on a home run on Georgia Tech on the next game, and then ended up being 1-2. But so they got their feet wet as freshmen to a regional, and that was great to do that. And then obviously 14, like I told you off air, actually we were the first team left out. Man, we're watching TV. We're the first team on ESPN as the first team left out of the tournament, when I felt like we had a team that was good enough to be in. We were 17-7 in the league, and just had, again, this entire team of sophomores that end up being the next year was, you're like, hey, good things. They've had experience of being a regional one, which is, there's no, substitute for that, right? And then they had another good, solid year the next year, and just didn't get in because it's tough to get in. And then it's almost kind of like get out of their way, right? This was a close-knit team, very talented, and as you hope guys do, right? Freshman year and sophomore year, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better, right? They did. And even as coaches, like, get out of their way, put them in the best position to be successful, and get out of their way and let them go do their thing. And they're such a tight knit group. And I knew we were gonna have a good team. I knew that. To do what we did, as far as like the amount of games you won in a row during conference play was pretty insane. But the ride was fun. I can tell you that.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about these players. What was really unique about this team was there's, it's kind of like what we famously think of in the postseason, where, you've got this older group that's been together, and, you duck the injury bug for the most part. So there's 9 basic position players that played virtually every day, and there's 8 arms. And I'm going to read off the arms. I'll go one at a time, and then maybe you guys can go every other player and just give me what you remember about these guys. And then feel free to jump in on a guy that I skip over you for. So, Drew, I'm going to do the starters first. Tell me about Kevin Duchesne.
I'll never forget how much time you got for Kevin who lives in Arizona, by the way. But
love that.
This kid as a freshman, this is how he talked in bullpens. Hey, Drew, watch this. I'm going to run this ball, a half a ball out, cut it a half a ball in. Like, this guy was talking like he was a 10-year big leaguer as a freshman, had that kind of command, and was just a competitive dude, right? And just knew how to win and knew how to pitch, right? Wasn't a hard throw out of high school, but like when you talk about pitchability from the jump, he had it. And you look at his record over 3 years, I think he was something like 23-3 or something like that. But he's Duchesne. He's a little out there and stuff like that, like most lefties are. This lefty's not, but that lefty was.
Yeah, that's
right. And when it came to compete, he's given the ball, he's winning the game, right? And he's taking you to the 7th inning and on too, right? So just super dependable. And you knew every time out there what you got. You knew that even if you didn't have his best stuff, that you were going to get a chance to win because his competitiveness was going to hold through. So
he was one of the more
great competitor.
Yeah, one of the more famous players on this team for us college baseball nerds. Like, he's a Joliet Catholic kid, go Hilltoppers. He was he was almost like if Joliet Catholic could create an athlete in the lab. This is like what you think about with it. Like undersized, human, oversized attitude, confidence, swagger, just like you described. Yep. All right, Spence, do Drazen Johnson.
Dre, man, he was a competitor. I'm gonna let Drew jump in too, but man, competitor. Again, for a guy that could go out, and I loved him as the infield coach too, because he would roll a lot of ground balls, man. The infielders knew they were getting ground balls, and same thing, like fifth year senior, and probably, and Drew may argue, but like probably just overall leader of
Yes.
of that, at least one of them of that pitching staff.
Yeah, this guy was basically a walk-on, basically from basically Chillicothe, right? He was basically from the area all the Parr brothers were, Justin, Jordan, Josh, right?
Yeah.
And he had to rise up. I mean, this is a guy who was not, let's be honest, not thought of as going to be a difference maker. But in his career, just kept turning more innings and more innings and more opportunities. And he was just a ultra dependable guy, super low heartbeat on the mound, almost like throw a dip in, right, and just kind of be here and just do his thing. And it was sinker slider, and it was, like Spence said, ground balls all day long, not going to hurt himself. This whole group wouldn't hurt themselves with walks. They were phenomenal with that. Coach's dream. But just, again, you got Duchesne being dependent. Then, oh, by the way, this guy is just as dependable, if not more. And they just passed the ball to each other. And he was just, again, that fifth-year senior, that guy who had everything he had earned and built up to these moments, and then took his opportunities and just ran with them.
Love it. All right, so Drew, take these next two starters. Rob McDonald and John Kravitz look like they were like the rest of the rotation.
Yeah. So John and Rob, well, again, with those guys, Rob was a fifth-year guy as well. Had Tommy John. Rob was our Tuesday guy, basically, right? Like a fifth-year senior, Tuesday starter, drafted like 20-something round with the Rockies. Fastball change and just, again, competitive. And knew why it was great, Runes? Here's a fifth-year guy. Hey, you're going to be our Tuesday starter. Didn't complain a bit. Could have been, woo is me. I should be a weekend guy, whatever. No, man, you got beat out by the other guys that we have. But you're great, and you can help us win. These games are super important. And he take his role, and he runs with it. And he has a phenomenal year. And, again, if you know Rob, too, amazing guy. So last year's ACC tournament, he texted me. He's like, hey, are you down here? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm here for work. We met up for dinner and had some drinks and stuff. It was great to see him. And he's, it's 10 years later and he's still the same kid, and the guy that you'll love and know and forever. And again, these guys it's going to be like redundant, but all these guys were like that. Where they worked their butt off. They got what they earned, and then they ran with what they got, right? And they didn't complain. Well, give me more, give me this. Go earn more, right? And they did, and he was that way and was a leader on and off the field.
Love it. How about Kravitz? Dude, Kravitz.
Kravy, that is a crafty dude right there. Mount Carmel guy. He was funky. What's the best way I can say it? Funky, over top, a lot of stuff going on, sinking it, sliding it, cut it. But again, ultra competitive. Again, would have been a sophomore in 2013, got the start against Vanderbilt in the 1-0 game down there. So got the chance to have that experience. A real fun fact about the game, because my sick mind remembers this still. He got ahead of 9 hitters, struck out all 9. All 9. Any hitter he got 0-2, 1-2, he struck every single one of them out.
Wow.
Every hitter he fell behind, 13 for 15.
Whoa.
Talk about like holy Jekyll and Hyde, right? But like a guy who had that experience and, a competitor and whatnot, and just, again, was going to give you everything he had and was literally a mainstay in the rotation since his freshman year, 2012, 13, 14, 15. So my first 4 years as a pitching coach, he was in the starting rotation all 4 years.
Love that. All right, so the other guy that is the most famous, it's interesting, the position player group, who we'll come to in a second, they were all so good and so consistent that they almost blended together. And how about this though? 4 of the 9 position players had more walks and strikeouts. Like usually, like a good team might have 1 or 2, but not 4. But so Tyler J is obviously who I'm talking about. And Tyler J is one of the best relievers in college baseball in the last 10 years. Like he's basically it's like a Paul Skeens but just in the bullpen whenever you need it. So from your perspective, and then Drew, I want you to put a bow on Tyler. But what you're from the position player angle, Spence. What do you got on Tyler J?
Yeah, I mean Tyler's really was mean, he just shrunk the game, right? And it was such a power arm. It was such a, there was so much hype with it. I think the biggest thing for Tyler was just, hey, was he going to handle the pressure, right? Coming off the Cape. Was it USA too, Drew?
Yep, USA.
Yeah, USA. Like, there was just so much hype. That was the biggest thing for him. The stuff is nasty, and then again, every game, right? There's a lot of guns in the stands, right? And so for him, it was just really good. Again, about halfway through, when I just noticed, like, okay, he's handling this. There's always going to be this thought of people saying, hey, you should start, you should this. That's, for me, what was most impressive about Tyler, is that he just eliminated the noise and went out and dominated, and then got rewarded for it. Being drafted. We were sad because Vandy had got us, right, but that was also a fun day, getting drafted with his teammates around there. So just, again, another competitor.
Love it.
Yeah, Tyler. What a story, right? Like, we had so many good pitchers that you're like, I remember having the arguments with Dan about this. I'm like, we got to start this guy, because if we don't, he's not going to go in the first round like he should, because, they're going to draft a closer. But like what Dan always pointed out was, like, other guys on our team can't do what he does in the back end because he's been there before and the mindset he has. I'll never forget that first weekend. We went to Lamar, playing 4 games. I can't remember who we played. I know we played Lamar twice, maybe New Mexico State twice.
Yeah,
that's right.
Tyler had a save in either Friday or Saturday, 1-inning save, and I'm on the bus with Dan. I'm like, we had not been named starter on the Sunday game, and I'm like, we got to start him. We got to show that he can at least start, right? We built him up as a starter in the he can at least show we can start. He turns around me and he's like, yells at me. He was like, fine, we can start him, but I don't want to hear that shit again. I got it. But I'm happy. He starts. Runes. He goes 5 innings, gives up 1 infield single. There was like 33 people there, scouts. I'm talking like everything, GMs, crazy. And then it was good. It was a wrap. Up to 96. We showcased a changeup, and that was on Fangraphs at the time, and Fangraphs was just starting. And that was it. 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 infield single, and then he closed the rest of the year, and he'd go 1 inning. Sometimes he went 6, and Penn State went from like the 9th to the 15th. Look at his numbers. He had a 108 with like 7 walks and 76 strikeouts. He was like, he has thumber numbers with power stuff, So it was crazy.
What was the deal? Drew? Was it like it's 96 left-handed, so they can't see it? It's too much velo for them. Is there like a wicked secondary too, or is just the fastball is unhittable?
No, it was all of it. I mean, his arm was so fast. We're talking about a 5'11", maybe 6-foot lefty, right? But repeatable. Again, it locates so well. It wasn't just like, here, set up middle and see if you can hit it, man. He located with his heater, and to be honest with you, like, back then we didn't have Rapsodo or TrackMan to say, hey, he was carrying it or something like that, but he would have been carrying the ball. But he had a really good curveball and a really good slider. He had a great changeup. We just never used it because we weren't facing lineups multiple times through. And again, he just came in and he pounded the crap out of the strike zone, and then it was over with. Like,
and who was he as a freshman and sophomore? Was like when he shows up, are you like, oh wow, there's
freshman year? I mean, he was 84, 87 when we committed him, right? But athletic kid from Lamont High School, and then it's like 87, 90 when he gets here as a freshman, but you're liking it, right? And then his sophomore year, great. Turned on the second half of the year, was a closer, starting to get like 92, 94. Goes to Team USA, and his first outing was like a 97 bowl, and it was oh wow, who is this guy? Everybody's like looking who this guy is, and then he made the team and did well, and then that was it. That was like, as Spence said, that was what started it, like everybody knowing who he was. And then for that to happen, and then him to then like post right away with not having the experience of being the guy, I think is also ultra impressive.
Yeah. Agreed. Drew, take Cody Sedlock, who became, obviously Tyler Jay's the first rounder, 6 overall, but then Cody Sedlock becomes a first rounder the following year.
Yeah. And Cody, again, you got 2 midweek games. He starts the second midweek game, right? Like, that's what he was. And he didn't have great numbers that year. But to think about a guy who was, he could be up to 96 at that time, which was at that 10 years ago, was really hard, and he was just behind all those other guys and wasn't going to get a whole lot of innings. But you knew that the next year he's got to be a guy for you. So anytime you could, you were starting him in a game. I mean, Spence mentioned the Coastal weekend. We played 5 games that weekend.
That's right.
We played 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday. And then on Monday, He starts, it goes. Cody Selleck starts it, sitting 93, 96. Then we bring in Nick Blackburn, who throws the hardest he's ever thrown in his entire life at like 95, 96. Then we bring in J.D. Nielsen, a left-hander who was like 6'7", dropped him to like submarine, throwing like 88 from submarine. And then, Tyler J closes it. I remember Gary Gilmore saying, this is the best pitching staff he'd ever seen in college baseball. And he just faced him on a Monday. College, right? It was kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, that was one of those tournaments.
From a depth standpoint,
Yeah, Kent State in there, West Virginia. That was actually a good little Ball State.
Ball
State,
tournament.
They got us. Yeah, they got us. Yep.
Yeah, look at the scores of those games. They're like, we win 1-0, lose 2-1, win 2-1. Lose. It's crazy.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So J.D. Nielsen was a submarine lefty. Is that what you said, Drew?
Yeah, he was a 6'7" lefty, 86, 88 from over top. It just kept getting hit hard. We're in practice in the indoor facility. It's just like late January, early February, first couple of days of February. Season starts in 2 weeks. And he's messing around. He throws submarine. I go, that's really good. And I said to him, are you there yet? And he's like, what do you mean? I go, are you there yet? Meaning, are you ready to give up on this? Right. I said, because I'm not yet. Swear to God, 2 days later, he gets pounded in inter squad. You go, we're doing it. We did it 2 weeks before the season, and he was lights out. And then he gets drafted because of it with the Angels. Had a chance to play professional baseball for a year at least, but at least he got to do it. And then he had success, and he was on the field. So that was a kind of a cool story. I tell that story a lot because the change literally happened 10, 12 days before our first game.
Oh, that's amazing. And then the last arm was Andrew Mamlek. He got 18 innings. So it's just like this is an amazing pitching staff. 2.55 ERA. Incredible. So let's do the position. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Drew.
From the club team.
No.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So pitched on the club team like his freshman year or something, and like was on the walk-on tryout deal.
If you look at the 2016 team, it was Cody Selleck, and then we had two kids from the club baseball team, Doug Hayes, who went from like 84 to 92, and then Andrew Mamlek. And we had like a great team area that year too. And we had 2 of our 3 starters were literally from the club baseball team.
Oh my gosh. Note to self, don't schedule the Illinois club team.
Yeah, right.
Please. All right. So Spence, let's go through the lineup. So leading off, and I think the lineup was fairly static, but so leading off, the box score that I looked at was shortstop Adam Walton. Tell me about Mr. Walton.
Yeah, Walt, he was great just in the sense of like he was really confident. He knew who he was. He knew he needed to take his defense seriously, and he was a good shortstop. But Walt would pop some. He would he'd hit you some doubles. He'd hit some homers, but at the same time, he was just super consistent in what he was. He loved to run. He could steal bags, and Walt really just did a good job of kind of setting that table. But one of the things just that you mentioned that Runes that I think like helped, and Drew talked about it, is like these guys, like this lineup, they knew each other. They knew who was hitting behind them, in front of them, and what they could do, and who was going to maybe get pitched around, and what pitches they could run on, because how guys were going to get pitched. That was hat tip to Dan. He kept a lot of consistency in that lineup, and Walt was the one that started us off there. So again, draft pick, played with the D-backs a little bit, and just a really, really good all-around player.
And he's a junior that year? That's his draft year?
Yep. Junior that year. Yep.
Got it.
We broke a record. We had like 11 guys drafted that year.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. So, Drew, second hitter that I saw was left fielder Ryan Nagel.
Yeah, Nagel. He wasn't going to say a thing ever, right? He was very quiet. But here's a guy who was like, wait, he would just quietly just go 3 hits a night, right? I think the Pirates ended up taking him, and we thought we were going to get him back the next year for his senior year. And again, so many people had saw us play, because when you have a good team, more scouts are coming out and seeing Tyler, then you run into Ryan, and then he just kept hitting and hitting and hitting, was just so consistent from the left side, and played a good left field. And again, Spence mentioned our lineup was so good in the sense of knowing who they were. It was just so they knew how deep the lineup was, right? So there was no pressure on any one guy to do something extraordinary. Knowing if I don't do it, no big deal. My guy behind me will get me. And it was that way from 1 to 9, And again,
it was tough.
Strike out.
Yeah, it was tough, Runes, because if you Walt would often get on, walk, hit, whatever. If Nagel would smash heaters, he would smash fastballs. So but if you went off speed, Walt was going to steal. So it was just, they had that type of it was an offense, and again, a lot of those times these guys they were green, they were on their own, they just knew how to play the game, which is fun to, being at third base, seeing those guys just kind of turning them loose was fun.
Gosh, your guys' fall inter squads must have been like those pickup basketball games we all grew up on, where like it's a fist fight at the end of the game. Like you can't even with that pitching staff and this old position player group, the fall must have been bonkers.
Yeah, it was good. And then, like I said, we had that trip to
the DR.
That trip to DR too. So the fall was even later. You remember that, Drew? It was a later fall. Yeah.
And the trip to DR, I remember this. We played split squad.
Yeah.
We weren't playing one game. We were playing 2 games a day. So we have like half our team playing one game and we only lost 1 game in the whole week we were there.
Wow.
So even we'll call them our B team, we're beating the professional 18-year-old Venezuelans, Dominican kids, right? Then we played Licey, the Winter League team, and they tied us in the bottom of the 9th and scored a run, and we just went and played 9 innings.
That was their B team.
Late to tie the game.
The B team, though.
The B team. Yeah, it's all AAA players.
I don't want a bunch of comments coming in here.
That's funny.
All those B guys are all AA and AAA guys.
Yeah. 27-year-old B team. Spence, tell us about so the 3-hole hitter was your second baseman, Reed Roper, one of 2 Roper brothers.
And nice little fun fact here too, Drew. He pitch closed a little bit for us too here and there, and then he was just so good offensively. A great story, Runes, of like a guy who came in right away, highly touted, good player, but really grew into his power this year. I mean, this guy, you have those times where you're like, every at bat he's gonna hit a homer. You really felt that, and he went on a tear early on in the year. Really actually carried us early on. But yeah, just a solid player, really good arm strength, really good defender. But from the left side, just was pounding balls early.
Was this lineup a lot of left-handed hitters, or was it like dead down the middle, like 5 and 4, 4 and 5?
It was a good split. It was a good split, and we had some guys. I mean, we'll get to them later, but the Casey Fletchers, the David Kirian in the 6-hole, but Big Ten Player of the Year. I know we'll get to. I'm not trying to spoil it, but so we had some, but then we had some guys that we could flip out to. So, but it was I want to say it was 5 and 4.
Yeah,
5
with,
left,
with
4.
Karen being a switchy.
Yep.
And where were the Ropers from? Are they Chicago kids, or where are the Ropers from?
Southern Illinois. Yep.
Illinois.
Small town.
So basically Southern Illinois, down that way.
Got it. Cool. Drew, take Jason Goldstein, the catcher.
I love Goldie. Love it. One of the best catchers I've ever had. I mean, obviously I had Kyle Teal at Virginia, right? We talk about just an absolute ninja, but from a pitch calling standpoint, and how good he was, it was like a 10-year big league vet who's catching in college, right? That's how smart he was from a baseball.
Drew, expand on that too, Drew, because just tell people that are listening, because who called the pitches?
He did.
Yeah. And
so
really,
at Illinois, we never called the game. Like I could call pitches if I want to. We had a system, and there'd be games I called 15, and there'd be most of the games I called 0, right? We just spent a lot of time. I do the reports, sit down with those guys, and then give them to them. And Jason was always so good at that again. And those guys, that's how they're going to learn and develop to be pros, is to let them call their own game. Right. And now, that's crazy. I go to Virginia, I call every single pitch, and still that way now. But that's one of the impressive things is don't forget, like as Spence said, that guy's calling the game, and he's so invested into every single guy on the mound. And he was so good. And then he was such a great hitter as well. And this guy could have left as a top round pick after his junior year. And he's like, nah, I ain't going. I want to stay for school to get my degree, because that was really important to him.
And another Illinois kid?
Yep. From Highland Park, Illinois.
Yep.
Got it. Love it. Spence, so in the 5-hole, what I looked at, I got Casey Fletcher playing right field. That's Scott Fletcher's son. Is that right?
Darren Fletcher, big league catcher. Darren Fletcher.
Darren, yeah,
got it.
Yeah. So Casey, I mean, you talk about a guy that just obviously grew up around the game, but this guy just really knew how to hit. He knew how to, steal bags, ball in dirt. He was just going to do all of those little things, And again, here's a guy that big expectations, with dad, and he just really handled it. And again, left-handed hitter, just knew how to go compete, knew what he could do. Stayed within himself, and Fletch was he was a good one. He was fun to coach too. Always kept it loose.
Mm-hmm.
This group in general was fun, man. But Fletch was a good one.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I want to expand on Fletch. Obviously, his dad was an Illini legend, right?
Yeah.
And then a great big league career as a catcher. They live literally. He grew up 20 minutes outside of Champaign.
Yeah.
Fletch was a junior college guy to start, right?
Yeah.
JC guy. I can't remember what JC was at, but JC guy, and came over. Again, a guy with a pro approach, a pro baseball IQ, and it was just like steady Eddie from, like you don't expect that from a JUCO guy, but it was like he's been around big league stuff his whole life with his dad, and it was real. It wasn't like it was genuine, and he knew what was going on, and he was a great guy for the team because other guys be more excitable. He was more level-headed and more even keel. I think because his dad was more of a quiet guy as well. So the personality mix, I also think it was great with this club.
Yeah,
just a lineup standpoint. You had guys who were like, outgoing and crazy. You had guys that were just like this, and I thought they were great for each other.
Yeah, real true confidence too, Runes, with Fletch. Like he walked up to the plate like really, really confident. You could just see it.
Love that. So Drew, so from the 6-hole that I found, I got Pat McInerney hitting sixth, and then Carrion hitting seventh. But you take, one thing I do remember about Pat McInerney, this is a large human. Like I think he's listed at 6'5", 240, and I remember him being like all of that.
All of that. A walk-on kid, right? No money, walk-on kid, wanted to come to school here, and then you see from I'll never forget, like he could run. Like you wouldn't think it, but like his feet. But man, that guy was a good athlete, sneaky good athlete, and it didn't look the cleanest, whatever he did, but like he produced and just again worked his tail off and got what he earned. And it was like again, he was an Illini man. Like he was just wanted to be there and wanted to do everything he can to help the team win, and it showed. And it was fun to have him. I think he was mostly DH in that year a lot for us, and it was just again. Then he had a great year, and I forgot somebody took him.
Brewers.
But yeah,
the Brewers. They loved him here. They loved him here. But before I got here, he got released. But they loved him. So yeah, Mac, great story. That was one. I'll be honest, Runes, I didn't see coming. You saw some flashes in the fall, but the year that he had, I didn't see that coming. Yeah. So that's just again, when you have special years, you have stories like that, right? Where guys just like come out a little bit out of nowhere, and yeah. Cool to see.
All right, so Spence, take us to David Carrion, who's playing first base. He seems really unique.
Yeah, here's the year before he was the one guy that he'd probably be the first to tell you in 14, didn't have the year he wanted to. This guy's a really, really talented ball player, right? Physical, could like Drew said earlier, switch hitter, hit it both sides. And so I think Dan Hartlib did a good job of just like, hey, let's try to get this guy's confidence back. And he went on a heater. He went on a tear, right? And for most of the year. But I think Dan knew him, right? He knew David of where, because there was pressure, like Drew was saying, hey, let's bump him up in the lineup, start, this. But I think that was one of the things that just helped these guys is they knew who was hitting in front of them, who was behind them, and just wanted to keep Carrion, there. And again, hat tip to Dave. He didn't, kind of start whining and, hey, I should be at the 3-hole. And because if you look at the numbers, he had every right to think it. But Big Ten Player of the Year, that year, and again, speed could actually really run. Another big guy that could really run. But you talk about when he was rolling, like, huge threat in the box, man. Yeah. He made Illini Field look small at times. fun to watch, man.
Yeah, great. He had great presence, man. Like I said, he was a very physical kid. He came in as a second baseman and just second. Yeah, you're gonna play first.
Yeah. South Dakota. Rooney.
South Dakota, yeah.
Dakota. So, yeah. He turned himself into a heck of a player.
Yeah, you're not kidding. His numbers are crazy. It's like 370, 16 home runs, 50 plus RBIs, like significantly more walks and strikeouts, and almost double-digit steals. It's like just filling up the sheet. Just incredible.
And when you talk about those home runs, Rooney, it's like, oh, it's not a whole lot. It is. Like when you look at compared to like what it was in the country, that like
dead ball.
What it is now, right? Our whole lineup will hit 15 plus. Like we only hit 54 as a team, that 54, and we only gave up 25. Like, it just wasn't. The ball was a little different still. That was kind of soft and whatnot. But so to do what he did was like that would be like 30, I think now. It was like 25 doubles. That's probably what it would be like.
That boy Drew, awesome. just give him some homers. I like it.
That's right. 20, Drew, is it Will Krug? Krug? Center field.
So I got to start with Will Krug. So my first year as a coach is as a full-time assistant is 2012. So every year we have walk-on tryouts they would have walk-on tryouts on Labor Day at 8 a.m. And then Labor Day was the first team practice as well. Well, why does he do that? Well, if you want to walk on this team, you're going to be pretty serious about it because you're going to give up your 3-day weekend and be here at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. This dude's out there. We have no idea who he is. Not one of us seen in high school. Nobody. This guy's hitting balls off the wall, running 6'8", 6'7", 60, got a good arm, makes a team, ends up playing for 4 straight years. Incredible. And again, one of the nicest human being and kids you've ever met in your entire life. Unbelievable family. And it was great. This team, these families, how close they are still to this day is really special. Like they go on vacations together. This is 10 years later. They're at all the weddings all the time. And Krug was doing that since 2012, playing his freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then he just couldn't take him out of the lineup. He was such a mainstay defensively and just such a guy who was, I've earned this and you are not going to take it away from me type of kid. And it was another cool story that just added to all the other cool stories that we had in the group.
Yeah, love it. Spence, so in the 9-hole playing third base is Ryan Roper. I'm assuming Ryan is the younger brother?
Yep, younger brother. First off, absolute cannon of an arm. Could really pick it. I think the cool thing about Ryan too is in the 9-hole again, you could look at numbers. He had some really big hits, and again, when you have these kinds of years, right? Like they're gonna try to pitch around, and there's guys are gonna cool off a little bit. And I just remember I want, maybe it was Indiana weekend. I'm blanking on the weekend, but just had some really big hits for us. Could really pick it at third. And again, when you go Walton, who could really get a first step and get to a lot of balls, and then Ryan Roper, if he got it in his glove and he got to his feet, like it was an out. It was fun. There's some guys that's like, man, I just like to watch this guy throw. Like he was fun to watch throw and then I think it's something too of like, you have an older brother who's absolutely going off, and you're kind of trying to catch up with him. So he did a great job. And again, just making sure, because you could talk about the offense, but they were gonna, Drew's guys were gonna get ground balls. They needed to defend, and that group really defended nicely as well. And Ryan was a big piece of that.
Yeah, you're right. It had a cannon. There's something in the water in Harrisonburg because those guys can roll the rock.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
And you're right, Spence. Like those guys, you just love watching them take it in and out. All right, so boys, let's do this. Let's talk about this streak. So you guys start Big Ten play. You win the first game against Michigan State. You lose the second game, and that loss is on March 28th. You would not lose another college baseball game until May 20th. You went 21-1 in the Big Ten. You were 1-1 at one point in the Big Ten. Won 20 in a row, plus every midweek game that you could win. You basically went. I mean, I just think about your life as a college baseball person, and you go 2 months without feeling the feeling of a loss. Just incredible. You don't lose until game 2 of the Big Ten tournament. Spence, you can go first. Give me a recollection from that bonkers streak.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that there's times like when you're like, all right, it's going to end here. I think were we playing Missouri, Drew, down at what's that field?
Sauget.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sauget. And you could just kind of like feel like, we're not really. And all of a sudden, I'll never forget David Curie, and they had one of those fences that's like the lowest part of the fence. And he might have hit it like 322, like right over the fence, and like kind of sparked us. And so you're just like, man, like we're just like, we got the horseshoe right now. So there's got to be some luck. I mean, I even knowing we played Northwestern, they had an arm going Matt Portland. Remember that extra inning game against Northwestern? They were actually it was supposed to be a road game, but they had to come down to us. Long story, their stadium wasn't done. And we were battling them. They actually probably could have beat us, and we executed, got outs on some bunt plays. So again, I say that really talented team matched with some some luck here and there, and that led to a pretty fun streak. But I'll just say this, like, hat tip to those guys too, because again, you start getting in the 20s, and now it can start messing with you. And they just didn't do that. Like, Drew's arms set the tone, and then offensively, you just knew you were going to be in every game. And so it was fun to be a part of.
Yep. Yeah, Go ahead, Drew. What are your big recollections?
It's funny he brings about in the 20s. I can't think back and think of any thing that stuck out to me of like, wait, we've won 10 in a row, we've won 12 in a row. Like, I don't remember that for some reason. But I remember at the end going, we just won 27 games in a row. Like it just became so like, we're going to win today. And we thought that, but then you just knew you were going to win. Right. And our team was always, they were so mature and whatnot. Again, that the group was just gelled so well. It was like, okay, we're down. No big deal. We'll come back. Well, we're going to find a way to win. They just believe so hard that we were going to do that, But I always think just from a standpoint, like when you get to when you get to conference season, like that's where losses start to pile up because conference play is always hard, right? So, you have these teams that pass that have these longest winning streaks of all time. Well, that was back when you could start a month and a half before somebody else started, right? It came to you at home and you just beat the doors off of everybody. I know this was everybody start the same day, unified start date, and our streak literally started in conference play, and then you just do that. It was crazy. But again, when you have that much depth, again, you got lucky. You didn't lose guys from an injury bug or anything like that, which was pretty insane when you think about that. When you look back on it, it was crazy. And since you asked me to be on this, I've been trying to recollect my brain of like being moments and what it was like. And one of the days I remember was at Penn State on the road, and Ty J 6 innings out of the pen. And it was like they tied the game off him in the 9th, and then he goes, I scoreless 10th, 11th, 12th. We just couldn't score, and we ended up winning the game finally, the 15th inning, right? But it was just finding a way, and which is what good baseball teams do, right? Like one day I'm gonna beat you 2-1, and then next day the wind's blowing out Illinois Field, you give up 10, we're gonna score 15. That's just the way it's gonna have to be that day, So it was just a special season. It really was, and being Spence, I do remember this one time we just let them play, man. Just sit back, let them go. Like you said, put the right guy on the pen, make the right, this, that, and that, and just let them be themselves, right? And they were just such a great unit.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hey, what about, so let's do the postseason. So, of course, we know it doesn't end in Omaha like we all dream of, but still miraculous. The funny thing is about our sport is so many of the best teams in the history of college baseball don't get to Omaha. Like Tony Vitello is obviously very newsworthy right now. And I know he would tell you his best team is not the one that won the national title. It's the one years before that got clipped by Notre Dame in the Super Regional. Yeah. And I've said on the record, I think that 2022 Tennessee team did more to grow college baseball than any other team in the history of the sport. They were, my mom's asking me about 2022 Tennessee, and she doesn't, I'm pretty sure she didn't know what she was asking, but anyway, so you guys are a top 8 national seed. So I'm curious, Drew, I'm going to have you go first. Was that a surprise, or did that feel pretty certain? And then you cruised through the regional, the regional round felt like you guys kind of handled it, unless I'm missing something, but go ahead.
Well, we knew we were going to have a good chance of being a top 8. I'm an RPI snob. I've been that way since I knew it, because I just want to be playing the postseason, and always knowing where you're at and what's going on. But, we won so many games. You knew that we were going to be having a chance. So, yeah, top eight seeds. You get to host the first regional in Illinois history, right? And, they come in and they say what you got to do to the stadium to make it feasible to host. And they chair. We have a bowl at Illinois, and it was just, steel bleachers. So they chair backed it, and they brought basically 4 semi-trailer type things, 2 on each line. And it sold out in 28 minutes.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. It was us, Ohio, Wright State, and Notre Dame. You know what I remember about that? I remember in Ohio, I had runners on the first inning, and I was like, oh my God. He was nervous, right? We're at home. And then Duchesne got out of it, and then David Carrion pumps a 3-run homer up the scoreboard, and then we just boat raced them out. But the next day, Runes, was Notre Dame. I think we won 2-0. I have to look at the schedule.
3-0.
3-0.
Yeah.
Grayson Johnson, complete game. It was 58 degrees. It was cold. It was weird. And then the next day, Wright State, they battled through the losers bracket, come back, and they're playing us. And the head coach at the time? He got kicked out of the game.
Oh, Greg Lovelady.
Right, Greg got kicked out. But they were scrappy, right? That was,
Yeah, that was the thing, because the Notre Dame team ruins. You follow it, and there it is. You follow that they were just starting to kind of get going there a little bit, and so I knew that they were talented. So that was, and I knew that they could really pitch it too. So that I was a little concerned, in that game, and then the Wright State game again. They're always going to compete. That they run and steal bases, and we got them 8-4. But it was a closer game than it. So you say cruise. I don't know if it didn't feel like a cruise.
No,
but,
sure.
Yeah, but it was. We definitely. And again, it was nice just to shout out Drew. Talked about the atmosphere there, but Dan Hartlib does a really good job in that community, and Drew knows that he's really connected in that community, and that was actually special for Dan, because they came out and supported that team, right? Really, especially towards the end of the year, they really did come out, and around town we're really excited about it. So that when you talk about building a program, I learned so much in a short time from Dan Hartlib on how to build a program, right? And then you get rewarded with the regional. Again, I said Eric Snyder's name before, did just an unbelievable job, him and Drew and Dan recruiting this team. And so it was fun. And I know Snides is out there smiling, because he helped a lot build that team, but was fun.
Love that. Hey, we're going to wrap with Coach Hartlib in a second. But let's do the super regional. So, you guys win the regional, and now you're staying home. You're hosting Vandy, who's the defending national champs, who I didn't realize you had played in the Dominican, or you had been in the DR with. And, and famously, Vandy's going to play for the national title again. It's interesting. This is Dansby Swanson's junior year. Yeah. I'll never forget this. He had 46 extra base hits. I don't think people get how many extra base hits that is. That's bonkers. Yeah. And especially in that era. And Carson Fulmer's on that team. And I didn't go back and look at why they weren't a top 8 national seed also. But in the first game, clearly it looks like you guys just weren't yourselves, kind of uncharacteristically got weird. And then the second game, after a rain out, you guys played on Monday. That was a very close game. You guys had a lead late. But Drew, why don't you kick us off there? What do you remember about the Super?
Well, I'll tell you, them not being a host, they were supposed to be on the borderline host, right? And they were kind of got snubbed in the host line. And then, of course, they match us up with them. And my first thought was, oh, great, we got to play Vanderbilt again. Regional 2013 at Vanderbilt. Now we're going to play them again. And be honest, I'm not afraid to say it. Hey, that's a little intimidated. I mean, they were just at that time they had it going, right?
Drew, I remember too. I remember when they shed the seed. They showed the seeds. And we saw our regional, and then we saw who we matched up with the Super. I remember we were sitting in the restaurant. Remember the restaurant? And I was kind of like, just because you had the history with it before, and
Yeah.
not me personally, but yeah. So anyway, I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, you were like, this just anybody else, right? Like here's a team that's supposed to, just won a national championship, and they have everybody back, and this and they had some bumps and bruises, but they're they're back rolling again, and here they come, right?
Yeah, they had some injuries too, Runes, throughout the year.
Walker Buehler got hurt.
Buehler, and he didn't,
Yeah, I mean, that team.
You
look at that team; it's first and second and third rounders on the entire lineup, and entire pitching staff, right? I mean.
Hey, Runes, I think I'm going to pull up the box score here, but I think it was on Friday. They got us pretty good here.
13-0.
Yeah, it was, and I thought it was that day. It must have been the next day, but Corbs brought in a freshman to kind of just like hold it in. It was like, Kyle Wright, let's just like give this guy, right. I'm just like they're throwing a big leaguer some some scrub innings or whatever. But I mean that team was stacked.
Yeah, and then we started Tyler J. The game, the second game, which obviously you said this, was Saturday. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Sunday got rained out, and then we ended up losing 4-2 in that second game. It was just, hey man, when you're facing good arms and good team like that, it's there's a lot of, you look at a lot of box scores in that era, that 2015 year, a lot of close games, right? Ty had 14 saves. I mean, that's a lot of saves. You don't play 14 close games anymore, right? At this level of college baseball. Now it's 3-game series, and you beat the crap out of somebody, beat the crap out of you, and then you play a somewhat close game, maybe, right?
Yeah. They had a really good approach on Tyler J too, Runes. It was crazy because I talked back Travis Jewett, after the case, and what their plan was, they were trying to just fight off his fastball because to Drew's point, and then they were trying to sit a little bit more on the slider. And Dansby, he hit, when you look back, he clipped a slider, and I think one other guy popped. Thought one other guy got one too on us, but anyway, it was great baseball game. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah. The sad thing about it, I get reminded about that stuff all the time because they play that damn clip of Dansby going number 1 overall like 6 minutes after the game ends, where David Price is there, and they're all that, and like he goes like number 1 overall, literally like 6 minutes after the game, and then Ty J goes 6th, and then Fulmer goes 8th, and then Buehler goes 24th. It was just like kind of crazy when those guys, remember back in the 10 years ago, when guys are on deck getting drafted in the first and second round,
Yeah. It is a very like symbolic end to a magical season where, like you said, the Dansby Swanson clip, getting his celebrating going 1 overall with his teammates. And I'm sure for you guys, like you said, you alluded to it, Drew, as sad as it was, for your team to like say that, hey, I was teammates with a guy that just went 6th overall in the Major League Baseball draft. How cool is that? Hey, let's wrap with this. Like, Coach Hartleb in so many ways is Illinois baseball. Now, he would punch me in the mouth for saying that because he would say that Itch Jones is Illinois baseball, but that's just his loyalty speaking. But it's funny, if I went to Vegas and said, hey, I want $100 on Dan Hartleb in Illinois to win 30 games and be in the top 5 of the Big Ten, they'd say that bet is off the board. Like that, because that happens every year, right? Like you can't. But I think like Dan Hartleb is so consistent, and he's he's just the best in every way. But like to have an outlier year like this is not what I associate with Coach Hartleb, right? Like I associate with him that it's just like they're gonna be good and sound and fundamental every single year. What do you guys think is Coach Hartleb's, like when you think about working for him and for you, Drew, playing for him? What are the superpowers of Dan Hartleb?
Well, consistency, you said it, is one, both in how he is on the field every single day with the players, consistent in his message to the players. But for me, it was the autonomy he gave us as a staff to do our job, right? Like that for me was huge. Not only just for us, as I thought that it's helped us. That's what you have us here for, right? To assist you and do our job. But from a growing standpoint, as somebody who is, that's my first college job, right? To give me that autonomy to go be great, man, and do the best that you can and learn and stuff and be somebody there who's that net to catch you and help you learn. Because that guy's been there as an assistant since 1991, right? And then a head coach from on. So it was. I'm always thankful and indebted to that all the time, because I don't think my career is, heck, I don't know if I'm coaching quite honestly, Runes, because I mean, I was a volunteer assistant with no background or no experience of anything of a recruiting standpoint, and I get hired to be the pitching coach there. So, and I was there, and I have to relive that 15 season for 6 years at Virginia because they lost to Virginia in the final. So I see it
that's right.
every day.
Oh gosh,
relive this that season. But no, it was a magical year, and yeah, I know Dan's not on here, but I mean that's the guy who's the leader of all of it, and. Again, what makes a great leader, in my opinion, is one, the consistency of the message he's given to his staff and his players, but also allowing us to do our job as well, right? And I thought that was, for me personally, was big, but I also thought it was big for the dynamic of our staff and our team.
Yeah. Go ahead, Spence. What's your take on Coach Hartleb?
Yeah, just again, same thing, indebted. I think the big thing too is that he was also not afraid to have some tough conversations. You know, like any team. You know, these weren't all like choir boys, and so we'll leave it at that. But you know, Dan, he told the timeline. Look, we're going to make sure that we always have standards. That guys understand there's going to be consequences. But he also, like Drew said, he let the guys play, and he let us coach, and it was fun to watch. He knows how to run a program. He knows how to, everything from boosters to the support staff around the program, making them feel appreciated. I just learned a lot, and obviously for me, that next year I go into my head coaching job. I just learned so much in that 1 year from him. He just taught me, a ton. So it was fun to see. And then when you get in that chair, sometimes you're like, ooh. This isn't as easy as Dan made it look sometimes. So definitely more appreciative and thankful.
Yeah, incredible. Coach Hartleb, 30, like you said, Drew, 35 years with the program and counting, 15 as an assistant, 20 and counting as the head coach. And, this was, again, I know that's an aggressive statement, best team in the history of a league. And, let's just, to be safe, let's say one of the best teams in the history of the Big Ten. But 50, 10, and 1, if you were a Southern school with a major, one of these gorgeous facilities, and you had some state lottery program, or, the schools that have things that help them make 11.7 stretch, which is what we had at the time. If you had all those advantages, 50 and 10 is almost impossible. And Illinois had none of those advantages. And it's 11.7 straight up. It's, let's call a fish. It's a bad facility at the time, right? The facilities are better now because of this team, is the truth. And it's cold weather, and we're starting on February 15th and all those things. And it's one of the best groups in the history of the sport. It's just incredible. So yeah, but well done by you guys. And I appreciate you guys doing this. This was, I had a feeling this would be really fun to reminisce on, and it was even better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. This was great.
Yes, so fun. So to all the listeners, thank you for tuning in all fall. That's the last of the Sunday Night Conversations. We've got the D1 Daily podcast dropping every week, myself and Chris Burke. Those drop on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And this has been fun, another very fun fall. So that is it. Everyone have a great rest of the week, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.